Next, we'll review financial reporting structure, where we will discuss the details of three key important elements of financial reporting structure, that is chart of accounts, calendar, and currencies. If you're coming from outside EBS background, then in Oracle world we called these are 3Cs. In 11i we used to call it 3Cs, that is chart of account, calendar, and currency. And then R12 Oracle added another C, that is accounting convention. So now in R12 as well as in cloud applications, the financial reporting structure consists of 4 different elements: chart of account, calendar, currency, and then accounting convention. In this session, we'll focus on these 3 elements. We'll have a separate session for subledger accounting. So before going into the details, first let's try to understand what we have discussed so far and what is the difference between those structures and financial reporting structure. When we discussed about legal entities or operating units or enterprise, all those are physical structures, and those physical structures helps you in doing transactions, physical transactions or operational transactions. And whenever you do any physical transaction or operation transaction, there is a financial impact. Operation transaction is like receiving goods from your supplier to your inventory, or shipping the product to the end customer, or when a work order is created, issuing materials to the work order or issuing resources to the work order. These are all physical transactions or operational transactions. Now whenever you are doing any such transactions, that transactions needs to be reported in your financial system, and that structure is defined as part of your financial reporting structure, where we have chart of accounts, calendar, and currencies, and as well as accounting convention. The first element is chart of account, and chart of account decides the structure of your various elements that is used to create your journals. So this is the key point to understand. The chart of account is the underlying structure for organizing financial informations and reporting. So whenever you are doing a transactions, let's go back to the same example. Suppose you are shipping a product from your warehouse in, say, London. Now when you ship the product from London, you want some account to get credited, your inventory accounts to get credited. Now the inventory account will be a single natural account, but there might be some other elements you want to consider in your financial transaction, like the country from where the product is being shipped, the business unit from where the product is being shipped, then if there is any product line, then the product line from where the product is being shipped. If you are using project accounting, then you might have a project number. So there are various sub elements that you want to consider while generating your journals, and those sub elements are part of your chart of accounts. So whenever you are doing any transaction, an entity records transactions with a set of codes representing balance by type, expense by functions, and other divisional or organizational codes that are important to your business. So it is not just about the natural account, because when you are shipping the product, definitely your inventory account, the natural inventory account, will get credited, as well as your COGS, cost of goods sold, will be debited. So you are moving from one balance sheet account, that is your inventory account, to another account, that is COGS. You're moving from balance sheet to P&L. But for reporting purpose, you just don't want to use these two accounts. You want to have the entire elements that is being used to generate the COGS, how the COGS is generated, using which product line, using which project, using which business unit, using which functional areas. The important elements in a basic chart of accounts in Oracle Cloud includes a structure that defines the account values, segments, and their labels, and rules. The rules can be a security rule and validations rule. So when it comes to chart of account structure, the structure has various elements. One is segment. So each of the chart of account has various segments, and if you are coming from EBS background, then most of those elements of chart of accounts are quite same what we used to have in 11 and R12. The only difference is chart of account instance. We didn't have any such concept in EBS R12, but now in cloud applications we have a new concept called chart of account instance, and when you go through this session you will realize how it is beneficial, why Oracle added this new concept. Anyway, the point over here is that the first thing that you define is your chart of account structure, and in the chart of account structure you decide what are the elements, what are the segments that you need to consider in your financial reporting. And this is a good example. So whenever you are doing any kind of transactions, you want to track the transaction in your financial system using the company code, like which company is doing the transactions. The company code can be your legal entity, it can be your business unit. Then the line of business. This is just an example. It is not mandatory you need to have all these segments. This is just an example. But most of the times companies will have 6, 7 or 5. There are a couple of segments which are mandatory. We'll come to that later. But in general, this is the best practice to have the company as your first segment, and that would be your balancing segment. That means whenever a journal is created, system will try to balance all the journals in that level. So the first segment is the company. Then within the company, you might have various different divisions. Then you might want to use the second segment to track your divisions against which a shipment has happened. Then the cost center. Cost center might not be applicable for all kind of transactions, but it might be applicable in few transactions, such as whenever you are doing a specific expense which is not part of your COGS. Suppose you are paying salary to your employees, you want to track as per cost center. Or when you are paying some expenses like travel expenses, you want to track them by cost center. Or when you are buying some equipments for a specific department, or buying stuffs which are not used in manufacturing process, suppose daily office expenses, laptops, bags, anything that you are buying which are going to be utilized in a specific cost center but not used for COGS, then you can also use the cost center to calculate the expenses. The basic point is cost center, it can be used for manufacturing tracking as well as for non-manufacturing tracking, and it might not necessary that you need to have cost center for all the journals that is created in your system. And we can use validations rule, cross validations rules to make sure that for a specific transaction, system will use cost center, and for other account, system won't use cost center. The concept was there in 11 and R12. We have the same cross validation rule concept over here in cloud application. Then the account, the natural account that system will use to debit or credit. Then the product, in the same line of business, if you have various product lines, then you can use one segment for your product. Then the intercompany, if you are doing many transactions within various internal organizations in the same enterprise, then you might want to track those transactions through a segment using as intercompany. Then if you are into project manufacturing, then there is a good chance you might want to have a different segment to represent your project. If you are into service, then you might have a different segment. So this is just a classic example of 6 different segments, but most of the companies will have 7 or 8. Beyond 8 is not considered a good standard. However, many companies do use up to 7 or 8, and usually most of the companies that you will see in 11 and R12 used to have one segment which is not used. That was a suggestion from Oracle, and that's why many companies who implemented Oracle EBS 11 and R12, they always used to have a segment as future use or not used. But none of the companies that I have worked for, I'm saying about 10, 12 different manufacturing companies, all the Fortune 500 companies that I have worked in 11 and R12, they never used that segment. So now when you are moving to cloud applications, just think, even 10 years time, if you have not used a segment, do you really need to create a new segment just that in future you might want to use it? If yes, then you keep the structure. Otherwise, if that structure is never going to be used, or rather that segment is never going to be used, you don't need to create a new separate segment that is future enabled or not used, or for some other purpose that you are not aware of it. Again, Oracle suggested, but from my experience, I have never come across organizations which actually started a chart of account structure with one segment that is for future enabled or to be used in future, and actually enabled that in some time in the future. So the chart of account consists of various segments, and on each segment we have various rules, and the rules are security rules and cross validations rules. Security rules decides who can use that segment. So suppose you have 10 different business units in 10 different countries. Now when somebody is doing a transactions in say UK, you don't want that persons to use a chart of account value, the business value for US or for Singapore or for any other business unit. That is controlled through the security rules. And cross validations rules, as I've already explained, this makes sure that you don't use combinations of chart of account which are not valid. For example, when you are doing a shipment transactions, when the COGS is generated, you don't want to use an expense cost center. That kind of validations you can put over here in the cost center. Another example is like receiving an expense PO. So when you are receiving expense PO, you want to use some specific natural accounts which starts with say 6,000, and you want to put a cross validations rules that if the natural account is 6,000, then the cost center should be 3,000. That's just an example. So basically the point is cross validations rules makes sure that no one creates a chart of account value, a code combination which doesn't have any meaning to the business. So first we create segments, and each segments have two different rules, and then for each segments we specify the labels, and these are all the labels. We had most of these labels in 11 and R12. First is the primary balancing segment, which is mandatory. So one of the segments needs to be defined as primary balancing segment. Then in cloud applications we have secondary and third balancing segment. In 11i we had only one balancing segment, then in R12 Oracle added two balancing segment. Now in cloud applications we have three balancing segment. I don't think any company is ever going to use three balancing segment, but if required you can use two balancing segments. So one could be your company and second could be your division. Or if you are using company and business unit, then you can have business unit over here as a primary balancing segment and secondary balancing segment. Then you need to label one of your segment as cost center, then the natural account, and these three are mandatory. You need to have one segment as balancing segment, one as cost center, one as natural account. Intercompany, there is a label for it, but it is not mandatory. So if you are not doing any kind of intercompany transactions, then you don't need to label any segment as intercompany segment. So first we decide how many segments we want to have in your chart of account. Then we define all the security and cross validations rules. Actually you don't define security and cross validations rules before you create this part, but you just need to understand we have these two elements over here. Then for each of the segments we specify what are the labels, what these segments do, and the mandatory is that you need to have balancing segment as well as natural account. And finally, when we have created the segment labels and segments, we create value sets. Value sets defines what could be the possible values for each of those segments. It doesn't define the value, it defines what is the value set, what could be the values for all those segments. For example, while creating companies, you just want to use numbers, and the numbers should be only 3 digit. That you specify in the value set. So you create a value set as company, and in the value set you specify it is going to be only number, and the number will be only 3 digit. Similarly, while creating accounts, you create a value set as account, and you specify it is going to be both number as well as characters, and it will be 6 segments. This is going to the minimum value, this is going to the maximum value. Those things you define in the value sets. And once the value set is created, you deploy the value set and you create the values. So first in the value set you specify what are the conditions under which the values will be created, and then you create the actual values. So once the company value set is created, you will create values such as 100, 200, 300, or 100, 100, 200, 3, those kind of things. And finally, once you created the value sets and values for each of your segments, then you can combine all those to create your account code combinations. And the concept is same as what we used to have in 11 and R12, that you can manually create account code combinations, or if required you can also dynamically generate them. And for that you need to enable the dynamic insertion is allowed. That means when a system created transactions, if the account code combination doesn't exist, then system will try to create the account code combinations on the fly. You don't have to manually enter all the account code combination. The concept of dynamic insertion is same as what we had in 11 or 12. So if you want system to dynamically generate account code combinations, then you enable it. If you don't want system to dynamically generate account code combinations, if you want to define all the account code combinations that will be used in your organizations, then you don't enable dynamic insertion and you generate all the account code combinations before they are used in the system. So these are the key points. The chart of account consists of segments. Each chart of account consists of various segments which have value sets. The value sets defines what could be the possible values for those segments. Value sets are attached to them and determine the values for each used in creating account code combination. Then each segment has segment labels. These are the segment labels that we have already discussed: primary, secondary, third, then cost center, natural account. And these segments define how GL is going to process them. And segments are also secured by security rule as well as cross validation rules. This is the page in which we defined chart of account structure. Again, if you are coming from EBS background, it is not that different. What I haven't discussed about is the chart of account instance. We'll come to that later. Once a chart of account structure is created, then you create various chart of account instances. And we'll come to that later, but let me just first go through this how the structure is created. Again, it is pretty similar to what we used to have in 11 R12. Chart of account is a key flexi field. We have several key flexi fields in cloud applications, and in 11 R12 also chart of account was considered to be a key flexi field. We also have the same concept in cloud applications, and this is one of the mandatory key flexi fields. So before you start using cloud applications finance, then you need to define the chart of account structure. So navigate to this chart of account structure page and select the module at general ledger. If you know the name of the key flexible code, that is GL. Then you can enter the key flexible code and click on the search button. If you don't know, then you can just select the module as GL and click on the search button, and system will show you this chart of account structure. And here we have three options. First, we need to create the structure using this manage structures button. Then once the structure is created, we'll create an instance for that structure using manage structure instances. And finally, when the structure is completed and instances are created, we deploy the structure. Unless you deploy the structure in cloud applications, that structure won't be available and you can't use that specific structure or structure instance. Deployment is similar to compilations what we used to have in EBS 11 and R12. So once the structure is created, and this is applicable for all the key flexibles, not just about chart of account. If you're creating any other key flexibles in inventory module or in fixed asset modules, there are several key flexibles that we need to define in cloud applications before you start using those key flexibles. So first you need to create the structure, then structure instance, and then finally you need to deploy it. Once it is deployed, then the structure instance will be available and you can start using that structure instance to create account code combinations. Or if you have dynamic instance enabled in your instance level, then you can start using that structure to create journals or accounting entries. So when you click on this manage structure, system will take you to this page where it will show you all the existing structures. And if you are using Vision instance, Oracle comes with these two structures. One is corporate and country structure, and second is corporate and country second structure. This is pretty nice for testing purpose. When you are just learning Oracle Cloud applications, you can always open this structure to see the segments created by Oracle Cloud applications and what are the value sets used. Then you can use this as your standard guideline to create a new structure. Again, if you are coming from EBS 11 and R12, then you might want to use the same structure that you have in your EBS background. You just need to copy from EBS to cloud applications. But if you are completely new to cloud applications, then you can use this structure, corporate and country structure and corporate and country second structure, as a standard guideline, because this is a pretty straightforward and standard structure that can be used by many companies. Anyway, so once you are here in this page, select the structure that you want to view or edit. Select the structure and click on the edit button. If you want to create a new structure, then click on the plus sign and system will show you this page where you need to enter various elements to create the new key flexible structure, chart of account key flexible structure. So first is the name, give it a name. The structure code will corporate and countries, because here I have clicked on the edit button, but if you are creating a new one, this field will be also enabled. So you need to enter the corporate structure code where you can't have any blank space, then the name where you can give it any generic name with blank space and special characters, then give it a descriptions, and finally the delimiter. Delimiter is how system will show you when the account code combinations are shown you in the system. So it can be a dot, it can be a hyphen. We have 7-8 different characters that you can use the delimiter, and delimiter will be used for segregations of various segments that we have in the chart of account. Again, this is nothing new if you are coming from EBS background. Whenever a chart of account code combination is created, system use the delimiter to concatenate all those segment values to show you the final account code combination. Then in the line level, you define the various segments. So if you want to create a new chart of account, then you might want to have 5-6 different segments. Then you define all those segments over here one by one. If you click on the plus sign, system will take you to this page where not this one, to this page where you have to enter the name of the segment, then the API name, which is not mandatory, then the segment code. We always have the code and name. The main difference between segment code and name is that this should be machine readable. That means you should not have any blank space or special character, and this should be human readable, something that anyone can view and easily understand. And API name should be similar to your segment code. It should be something that is without any blank space or without any special character. Then the description of the segment and sequence number. So if you have 5-10 different segments, not 10, you will usually have 5 to 7 different segments, then which segment is the first and which segment is second, that is decided with your sequence number. So if you can go back over here, so if you have 6 different segments, then you will define this one as your segment 1, this is segment 2, this is segment 3, like that. Next, the prompt is what is shown to the user when they enter the values for that segment label. Then the segment prompt short code, then the display width, range type, column name, which is important. So if you are creating 7 segments, then select the first one as segment 1, second as segment 2, third as segment 3. Then default value set code. You can enter the value set code that you have created for this specific segment, and finally you select the segment label. Again, it is not mandatory for all the segments, but at least 3 of the segments needs to be defined as primary balance segment, natural account, and cost center. Now, before going into the details, let me go to system and show you how to navigate to this page, a COA structure page, and how to view an existing COA structure, and then you'll also try to create a new COA structure. To view the COA structure, chart of account structure, navigate to setup and maintenance, then select the work area as finance. Actually, you can access it from any work area because this is a mandatory setup that is required before you can start using Oracle Cloud applications. However, we'll go to financials because that's our main focus area. And here, click on financial reporting structures. And here we have manage chart of account structure. Click on this. So before creating the structure, you should ideally creating the value sets, but in this instance we already have several value sets, so I will use an existing value set. But let me just go over there and show you how to create a value set first maybe. So click on manage chart of account value sets, and system will take you to the value sets page. And here, if you want to search existing value sets, then you can select the module or the validations type or the value set code. We want to view general ledger, so I'll select the module as GL and click on search. Then system will show me all the existing value sets that we have for general ledger. So these are all the existing value sets that we have for general ledger. Okay, now let me cancel this and go back to chart of account structure, and we'll view an existing chart of account structure. So click on manage chart of account structures to view as well as create new chart of account structures, and select the module as general ledger, and then click on search. And here system will show you we have only one key flexi field in GL till now, and system will show you that. So this is the application GL, the key flexi field name is accounting flexi field, code is GL, then the module is GL, the entity uses, if you want to view, then you can click on entity uses and system will show you where it is used. These are all the places where this accounting flexi field being used. Then the deployment status, it should be green ticked, that means you can use it. If it is cross sign, that means there is something wrong with the deployment and this specific flexi field is not available for usage. Then deployment error message, if something has gone wrong, if it is not green tick, then you can click on this and system will show you what was the deployment error message. Right now it is green tick, so there is no error message, and what is the last date on which this deployment has happened. You can also, whenever you're making any changes, you need to redeploy your chart of account structure and then the deployment date will change. Now to view or create a new structure, click on this button, manage structures, and system will take you to the structure page. And here if you just click on the search button, system will show you all the existing structures. And as I mentioned, Oracle comes with, this is a test environment, so we have several chart of account structure, but the one that you can always use as your guideline is this one, corporate and country structure. So select this and click on edit button, and system will show you the corporate and country structures. So this structure has these 6 segments right now: company, line of business, account, cost center, product, and intercompany. Most of the times you might have 1 or 2 more segments over here, and if you want to view the details of any of these segments, select that segment and click on edit button, and then system will show you the details of that specific segment. So here you can see the details of the specific segment: corporate and countries, then segment code is company, name is company, description is company, prompt short name, then the default value set code, that is corporate company. Now let me go back and show you this value set code, corporate company, that we can use this corporate company code, or if required, we can also create a new value set. It doesn't take that much of time, but before creating, let me just go back and show you. All those segments over there use corporate. So if you just search with corporate, system will show you 5 or 6 different value sets. Again, all these are available only if you are using the Vision instance. If you are in the production instance, then you might have to create on your own the new value sets. So here, if I just search with value set code as corporate, then system will show me all the 5-6 value sets codes that is used for that specific chart of account structure that we just reviewed. These are corporate account, corporate company, cost center, LOB, and product. And if you want to view the details or if you want to modify anything, then click on this specific value set code and click on edit. And here you can view the details. The value set code is corporate account. In the descriptions module, this is the two important things. The validation type should be always independent and the value data type should be character. If these two are not enabled, then you can't use that value set as your chart of account segment. So these two are mandatory. You should have validation type as independent and value data type as character. Then if you want to security, then you can enable the security enabled, and then if you enable security, then you can edit the data security to enable who can access this specific chart of account segment. Then the segment definition. So here, as you have selected the value data type as character, the value subtype will be text. Then what is the maximum length, what is the minimum value, maximum value, whether it is going to be uppercase only or zero fill. If any of these are required as per a business requirement, then you can enable and enter those values. And then once this value set is created, you can click on manage values to create the values. But it is not advisable to use this manage values. There are several limitations with that. We'll see that later. But there is another page from where you can also manage the values, so we'll do it from that page. Now cancel this to go back to the original page. So we'll use all these, or maybe we'll just create one more just for corporate companies, and we'll use the rest what we have over here. There is no point in creating this value set because it is a very simple process, and we can use the existing value sets. One more key point over here to check is that the usage of these value sets. So this corporate account is not only used in accounting flexibility, it is also used in cost allocation flexibility, that is used in payroll. If any of your value sets are used in multiple key flexifields, then you can view the details over here. So right now all these value sets codes are used in two different flexifields, one in GL accounting flexifield as well as in global payroll in cost allocation flexifield. Anyway, to create a new value set, click on the plus sign over here, and system will again take you back to this page where you need to give it a name first. So let's give it as MI corporate company. I just said code I always prefer not to give any special characters or blank space. Then the descriptions, you can write whatever you want and you can have blank space over here. Then the module, it's going to be used in general ledger. So these are the three important things that you need to select, otherwise it won't be available in your chart of account. That is, the module should be general ledger, validations type should be independent, and value data type should be character. Okay, there is some issue with sandbox. Let me just go back, setup and maintenance, financial reporting structures, and here manage chart of account value sets, and I will search for general ledger just to corporate and search. I don't need to search, I can just directly click on the plus signs to create, but just to compare once the chart of account structure is created, I will use it. So MI corporate company, then the descriptions I'll keep it as same, but here I will change, I'll remove the blank space. The validations type independent, and value data type is always characters. Then if you want to enable security, which we'll do in different sessions, so I'll not go through that right now. Value subtype text, or if you want to use numbers, then you can use numbers or digitals. It should be text or numbers, you can't have time or other things for chart of accounts. And then the maximum length, let's say it is going to be only 3 characters, and the minimum value is going to be 001, and the maximum value is going to be 999. And then click on, or because yeah, let's don't enter minimum maximum value, because we can also use characters instead of just using numbers. Then click on save and save and close, save and save and close. So now the chart of account segment for corporate account is created. Actually we created corporate account, right? So maybe I should have made it a 6 or 7 segment. Let me just search with MI percentage. Yeah, there is no blank space in the value set code, sorry. Yeah, so MI corporate company, yeah, it's the corporate company. We are going to use this as the balancing segment, and it is 3 character, that is fine. And if you want to create the values, right now if you see there is no usage because you haven't used this value set anywhere else. Once you start using, then system will show you the applications where this specific value set is being used. As I said, you can use this manage values to create the values, but let's use the another page which is available from here. Manage value set values. We'll use this one. Next, once the value set is created, we'll create a new structure, and in that structure we'll use the first segment as the new segment that we created, and the rest of the structure will use the existing value sets. If you want to review all the flexible structure, key flexible structure for GL, then you select GL and click on search, and system will show you all the key flexibles in GL. And right now we have only one till version 13 release 19B. Then click on manage structures, and system will take you to the manage structures page. Here, if you want to review, then you can click on the search button, do a blank search, and system will show you all the existing structures. To create a new chart of account structure, click on the plus sign over here, and system will take you to the chart of account structure page. So first is the structure code. Let's give it a code as MICOA. Then the name, let's keep it as same as the code, or maybe I'll just give it a name, MI structure chart of account structure name. Then description, here we can write whatever you want. Let's say MICOA accounting structure. Then delimiter, as I've already mentioned, we have several options over here, but the standard practice is to use dot or hyphen, but you can use whatever you feel is required for your business. Let's select this as dot. And unless you save the header level information, system will not enable the segment. So right now if you see the segment values, segment plus sign is disabled. You can't create a new segment unless you click on the save button. So click on the save button, and system will create the new chart of account structure, the header level informations, and it will also enable the segments. So click on the segments to create all the segments that you want to create for this chart of account. First we'll start with the company code. So let's give it a segment code as MI company, and again I will remove all the blank space over here, and I will use the same for the API name. Then the name I can use MI company, and descriptions MI company code, and sequence, it is going to the first sequence. Prompt, I want this to be prompt as company, and sub prompt is going to be CO. Display width, how many width? It is 3 characters, so let's put it as display width as 3. Range type, low, high if you want to enter, again it is not mandatory. Column name, so first we'll select segment 1, then for the 6 segments we'll use segment 1 to segment 6. And then value set code, here we have to select MI, I don't remember, so I'll just search it. Now here if you come and if you search the value set code, if you have created a value set code and it is not visible over here, then check that you have created the value set as character and it is independent and it is created for GL. As those 3 things have been properly selected while creating the value set code, system won't show you the value set code over here. So let me search with MI, and this is the MI corporate company code that we have selected. It is independent and character, and it is created for GL. That's why system is showing this over here. Click on OK. And this is the first segment. I want this to be the primary balancing segment. So here in the segment level, in the line level, select the primary balancing segment. I should see over here primary balancing segment, and then click on the right arrow over here. That will move from the available levels to the selected levels. So these are all the available levels. In my presentation I was showing only 5 or 6, but there are several other segment levels. So most of the times you might not use them. Maybe management segment, something that you want to use. Intercompany we have discussed, natural segment we have already discussed. Then revaluation, gain loss tracking. If something is required, then you can label it, but none of them are mandatory. Then click on save or save and close to complete the segment creation. And similarly we have to create other segments. So let's just create a couple of more segments. One is for natural account, so I'll give it a name as MI account. Then we'll select one for cost center, and the name is going to be MI account. Description same, MI account. This is going to be segment 3. Prompt is going to be account, and short prompt is going to be account. Is it enabled? Yes. Display width is going to be, let's say, 6. Column name is going to be segment 3. and then value set code, we'll use the existing value set code, that is corporate account. So I'll select with corporate, and system will show us the corporate account existing value set code, corporate account. And here, because I'm creating this for natural account, so I need to specify that the system, this is just given a name, I have given it a name, and I'm giving the default value set code account as corporate account, but nowhere I've mentioned to the system that this is going to be the natural account. That is specified through the segment level. So let me select the natural account. So this is the natural account segment. Select this and click on save. Third, we'll create one more for cost center. So let me click on again the plus sign, and here I'll select this as MI cost center, and API name will MI cost center, name I will keep same as MI cost center, description MI cost center, and then sequence, let's say it is going to be the segment 2, prompt cost center, and start prompt is going to be CC, display width is going to be say 4, column name, and this is going to be segment 2, and default value set code, here I'm going to use the existing corporate cost center. Corporate cost center, and here the segment level I have to select the cost center segment level, and then click on save and close. And finally we have to create one more for say product group. So segment 4 is going to be my product group. Product group API name will be my product group, or let me just make it as MIPG. Now when you make changes to the segment code, you expect Oracle to change the API name, but it doesn't. So you have to manually change it. I mean, whenever you press on tab, it should use the segment code and change the default values, but then it also has another limitations. If you have manually changed the API name, you don't want Oracle to change it again. And the name is going to be MI product group, product G maybe, description MI product group, and sequence, this is going to the 4th one, and prompt is going to be product group, and start prompt is going to be PG, this is going to be the 4th segment, column name, this is segment 4, and this segment till now, whatever all the segments that we have created, we have given a label. The first was balancing segment, then we had a natural account, then we had cost center, but for product group we don't need to enter in segment level. And here I'll select corporate product, and this time I will keep this as blank. So we have 3 segments which has labels, and the 4th segment doesn't have any label. Product group is sequence 4. Now I can click on save or save and close. So now the flexible structure, the key flexible structure for chart of account is completed. It is not yet deployed, but it is created. Okay, some other users are working right now, so it is not allowing me to save, but I can try to click on save and close after a couple of minutes. So now it is saved. And to view the existing structure or to make some modifications to the existing structure, if you haven't deployed it or if you haven't started using the structure, your system allows you to make some changes. So enter the structure code and click on search button, system will show. So right now we have 2 structure codes. This is the one that we just created, and to review, or let's say we want to edit something on the structure code, then I will select it and click on the edit button, and system will show the segments. It's showing us 3 segments, not the 4th one. Maybe I didn't save the 4th one. Anyway, so suppose now we created one chart of account structure with 3 segments, but we want to add a new one, then you can do that. Click on the plus sign. In fact, you can also edit the existing segments. Let me just create the 4th segment. I think I didn't save it. MIPG, MI product group G, then MI product group, sequence is going to be 4th, and the prompt is going to be product group, start prompt is going to be PG, display width is going to be 4, column is going to be segment 4, and value set is going to be corporate product group. Select that, enter the value set code and click on search. Corporate product, click OK, and then save and close. So now we have the fourth segment. I think I missed to save it. We created a new segment. Similarly, if something is required, now suppose right now we are using the existing value sets. For company we are using our own value set, but for cost center we are using the existing value set. And if you decided to create a new value set and you want to use that value set, then you can come over here and then click on the edit button, and system will show you this form where you can make changes. Almost all the informations can be changed. Of course, you can change the structure code and the segment code. These two are not allowed to be changed. I mean, structure code is something once it is defined in the structure level, it is defined. You can't make any changes. Similarly, here we are defining the segment. You can change the name of the segment and the prompt, but you can't make any changes to the code. Once it is defined, it is defined. But what you can do, you can enable or disable this segment. So if you don't want to use a specific segment, again, this is applicable only before you start using the chart of account structure. Oracle advises you not to make any changes to the structure once the structure has already been used in any kind of transactions. Then here you can enable or disable it, or change the display type or range type or any of the values which are allowed to be changed. Now let me cancel and go back to the structure page. So now we have this new structure, and to create a new instance we need to go back, and here this is the GL key flexi fields. We have created a structure. Next is to create instance, and click on the manage structure instance, and system will take you to the structure instance page where you need to create a new instance for your structure. But before doing that, let me go back to the presentation and let's go through the slides related to structure and structured instance.